We cannot help someone while they're living in a tent. We need a triage-like approach. They're not doing it at nearly the intensity or the urgency or the scope that we needed.
You've got the gang element that markets their drugs, and it's predatory. The more people addicted, the better.
We belch people out of our state mental health hospitals into streets, nursing homes, and jails.
Before you actually got real housing, meaning not rehabs or those kinds of things, you actually lived on the streets while you were getting sober. And so it is possible to be living on the streets and get sober.
What constitutes gravely disabled really needs to be revised. When they dismantled the entire system of mental hospitals from back in the 60s and 70s, the promise was that there was going to be community-based alternatives to that, which never occurred. That was the birth of the homeless right there.
So by requiring the county to actually treat people who need treatment, it's life-changing.
And people are frustrated, they're dissatisfied with the kind of responses that they're getting because essentially they're getting gaslit by their own elected officials.
There's a time when you have to call people out and just cut through the BS. This is that moment in history for the entire region where we say enough is enough. Let's get the job done.
All that the city and county are doing is building the case against themselves for not wanting to address homelessness.
The idea that this is criminalizing homelessness is an absolute red herring. It's a total myth that you can't both be compassionate and regulate public spaces at the same time.
I think that there's so many good opportunities to focus on building a large coalition of folks, mental illness reform advocates, providers who are sick and tired of the local government, the state government, and the federal government from tying their hands.
How could anybody be blind to the suffering? Really, it's all a matter of when people don't have a roof over their heads, it becomes very survival of the fittest. It's beyond a disaster, and yet the officials seem to be allowing it to get worse rather than intervening.
You've essentially created an entirely new class of untouchables, people who are slowly losing their last connections with family, with community, with society itself. But I can tell you this, it's not a housing crisis that you see here in Skid Row. We're looking at an addiction crisis.
We do have a FEMA-like, Red Cross-like crisis going on with homelessness, and it needs to be an immediate call to action.
Why should the local taxpayer bear the brunt of a national problem? So it is very appropriate to apply for FEMA funding.
The people we see on the street in the tents that are so concerning to us, that are becoming the public health problem, mental health is the problem. We choked off our state mental health system.